Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win, you find a way to lose. Let me tell y'all something. You see this guy named Zhelei Zhang? I've been trying to tell people for probably over a year that Zhang is the next big thing. There's a couple other fighters I talked about, but when I first saw Zhang, I said, this fella is special. But I'll tell you what, they got some non-believers out there, but he sure as heck put the heavyweight division on notice today. Now, if you don't know what happened, well, this is what happened. He knocked out Joe Joyce. Third round knockout. I mean, had Joe Joyce looking crazy, man. Joe Joyce looked intimidated. He looked uncomfortable. He looked hesitant. He just, there's nothing Joe Joyce could have done. All right? Sometimes styles make fights. And with Zhang, patient, he looked slow until he moves his feet, until he moves his arms. And then you see just how fast his feet are, how fast his hands are. And that's just something Joe Joyce just couldn't, his reaction time wasn't where it needed to be, especially with the kind of power that Zhang has. And obviously has power in the left and right hand. And he sets traps. And Joe Joyce just looked inexperienced, man. And he looked lost and he got knocked out. But what I'll tell you is, when it comes to Zhelei Zhang and that knockout that he had in the first fight, right? Well, a lot of people felt that was a fluke. Oh, well, Joe Joyce came in too light. Joe Joyce underestimated him. No way in the world Zhang would beat Joyce. Second time out, rematch. Joyce is, as far as how they felt that Joyce was a superior fighter. Well, I would have to disagree with that even going into that first fight, just knowing that Joe Joyce is there to be hit. And what this shows you is that when a fighter depends on their chin to get them through a fight, they can only have so much success. Look, Ricardo Mayorga, he made some noise, didn't he? He made some noise at what was it, 154? So Joe Joyce made some noise at heavyweight. But then what happened eventually to Ricardo Mayorga? Right? He got touched, he started getting knocked out. Now you see with Joe Joyce, he started getting knocked out. And if he continues fighting, I think he'll do good against some opponents. But I think now that, his punch resistance probably affected a little bit. And you may see him get knocked out if he doesn't really learn how to move his head. But the bottom line is, man, when it comes to Zhang, that Chinese heavyweight, man, is no joke, man. He made things super, super clear when he came and he basically let the world know, hey, it wasn't a mistake. This third round of the rematch, that wasn't a fluke. That wasn't an accident. And I'm letting everybody know that I want Tyson Fury. Let me tell you something, man. The way they call him the Big Bang Zhang, I say more Zhang for your buck, right? He hit him, man. He set him up, man. He threw that left hand, and the left hand, you can see he threw it like at the right shoulder of Joyce, just to get Joyce to try to react. So what Joyce tried to do was a pull counter, which backfired. So when Joyce threw the left, and when Zhang threw the left, and Joyce tried to pull and come back and counter with his right, he was wide open because he dropped his left hand, and Zhang just timed it and dropped a beautiful right hook. So now he retains his WBO interim title. But people keep talking about, oh wow, this could set up a fight with Usyk. Look, man, I'm not so sure that sets up a fight with Usyk. I think we got to understand. First, we need to understand Joe Joyce is still a good fighter. They just ran into somebody who was better, okay? But remember, Joyce was one of the rising stars. He was the guy. He was a guy who was rumored to be knocking people out in sparring, giving Anthony Joshua hell in sparring. The guy people pegged to beat Tyson Fury, right? Remember, he's a silver medalist in the Olympics. And I'm going to tell you this. He actually did something a lot of fighters wouldn't have done. He immediately stepped back into the rematch with Zhang. But this is the thing, man. It didn't help Joyce to get his place back where he wanted to be as far as a heavyweight interim champion, shot at Usyk, and all the glory that came with that. But let me tell you something. I keep telling y'all, when if a fighter is gonna, this is my thing. If Zhang got a strength and conditioning coach for the first time, Joyce should have got a strength and conditioning coach. If Zhang is taking the cocktails, then Joyce should be taking the same cocktails. If Zhang has a dietitian, then Joyce should have a dietitian. If Zhang has a nutritionist, Joyce should have a nutritionist. I mean, if you want the playing field to be level, these are things you really have to look at doing. And Zhang, for the first time, had a strength and conditioning coach. And that really made a big difference. Because I think he actually, when it came to strategy, I think it was some gamesmanship on Zhang and his team's end to talk about going for Joyce's eye. And I think Joyce and his team really bought into that. Hey, they're going to go for my eye. They feel that's a weakness. They're going to come out here and just basically try to re-injure the eye, cause swelling, and get another stoppage. But that's not what happened. So I don't think Joyce was ready for what Zhang brought to the ring. Plus, you see the thing with Zhang. Zhang's patient. And he's a counterpuncher. You just can't come out there letting your hands go and just trying to be super aggressive against a counterpuncher. And the thing is, Zhang will counterpunch you, make you think twice, and then he'll be the guy who initiates his offense. Zhang is just one of those tough nuts to crack. But I'm gonna tell you right now, as far as what's next for Zhang, he's 26-1-1, and people keep looking at Usyk. And I'm going to tell you this. Zhang's called out Tyson Fury. And Zhang's in a good position. But the rematch with Hrgovic, I don't think that's necessary because Hrgovic did get a win over Zhang. 95% of people who watch that fight feel like Zhang beat Hrgovic. Okay? But I'm going to tell you this. When you really look at what's out there for a guy like Zhang, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you what his reality is. Because first of all, anyone who fights Zhang to me is lucky. Because now you're talking about 300 million people who are tuned in to watch him. Could you imagine if they had the pay-per-view in China for just $10? $10, right? And they just got 1 million of those people to buy it. Could you imagine if let's say 200 million people in China bought Zhelei Zhang's pay-per-view at $10? You know how much money that is? Boy, oh boy. All roads could lead to Zhang. But the reality of things is you look at where Zhang is as far as the ring ranking. You see he's the number 4 spot. Usyk is the lineal. He's the big boy, the ring champion. Then Tyson Fury is ranked number 1, Wilder 2, AJ 3. When you think about the activity of the heavyweight division, you could argue that some guys have been more active. They should be ranked a little bit higher. But as far as accomplishments, it's kind of hard to argue that, when it comes to Fury, Wilder, and AJ, I don't think anyone has had the high-profile fights like those 3. I mean, those guys are the top of the division, and they've been kind of carrying the heavyweight division, so it is what it is. But when you look at where Zhang is, as far as the ring racket stack, he's number 4. Now that he just beat Joyce, Zhang is in a good position. Because just looking at the ring rankings, Andy Ruiz is number 5. So Zhang wants Fury. I don't think he'll get that. Okay? Because Fury already has issues. He got to sit there, man, and face his WBC mandatory. He's got to do something, which he's trying to make the Usyk fight. But Fury's going to get himself stripped. I think he is. If he decides that he's not going to defend that belt, if he keeps talking negatively about boxing, I mean, the WBC is going to have to do something. But Zhang could fight Ruiz. If not, Zhang could fight AJ. I don't think Eddie Hearn will put AJ in with Wilder. But Zhang could fight Deontay Wilder. Okay? But the reality of Zhang, when you come down, right, that's just looking at the ring rack and stack. You can see any of those fights happening, right? The shootout is going to be Zhang and Wilder. Who lands first? And I'm going to tell you, I have to favor Zhang in that fight. Because Deontay Wilder showed that when he fought tall fighters, that gives him problems. And a guy like Zhang, who's a tall southpaw, who's a very, very clever fighter, very explosive, fast on his feet. I just, man, it's, with anyone else, kind of hard to go against Wilder because of that right hand. But man, oh man, he's facing somebody about similar reach, similar height. I mean, Zhang outweighs Wilder by like 60 pounds, man. And he can fight. So this may be the first time where, you see some people kind of siding with Zhang. The people who don't know who Zhang is, they may say they feel Wilder wins. But if you know boxing, it's kind of hard for me to say Wilder would get him. I mean, he's got that right hand, but Zhang got that damn left hand and right hand. Man, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting. But Zhang's reality isn't fighting Joshua, not fighting Wilder, not fighting Ruiz, not fighting Tyson Fury. You got to understand, Zhang's a WBO interim world heavyweight champion. Zhang could go on and fight Usyk, but Usyk it looks like he's got to fight Flip Hrgovic. So Zhang and Usyk won't be getting it on anytime soon. So Zhang is going to have to take a look at fighting somebody from the WBO. So it's not going to be Usyk, okay? So in his next fight for Zhang, won't be Tyson Fury, because Tyson Fury already said what he's doing. He's fighting Ngannou, then looking at John Jones. WBC will probably make him and Deontay Wilder scrap. If Wilder, Wilder and AJ don't even matter. They look like they're going to probably make Wilder and Tyson Fury get it on. But Zhang reality, and for the WBO, Joshua's ranked #1. If Joshua and Wilder, for some reason, that fight doesn't happen, Anthony Joshua and Zhelei Zhang could end up fighting, because Anthony Joshua's ranked #1 by the WBO. Zhang's a WBO interim world heavyweight champion, and Alexander Usyk's a WBO world heavyweight champion, but Usyk's busy with Flip Hrgovic. So you could see Anthony Joshua and Zhelei Zhang next. But it sounds like they have different plans for Anthony Joshua to fight in December against, could be Andy Ruiz. Now, if Anthony Joshua's off the table, take a look at who's ranked at #2. Jared Anderson. We could see Zhelei Zhang against Jared Anderson. Could be by the end of this year, because Zhang didn't take any damage. People, how many of you really feel Jared Anderson is ready for Zhelei Zhang? Because that's what's next. You see what we're doing here? We're just having a conversation and trying to make sense. Because it doesn't make sense to look at the IBF, the WBC, and WBA, because Zhang has a title in the WBO. So he's going to fight guys who are ranked in the WBO. Usyk's off the table. Joshua's probably off the table. Next in line is Jared Anderson. And Jared Anderson would have to take that fight, or the WBO probably drop his butt out the rankings. And that's just how it works. They go down the line. Now, if Jared Anderson doesn't take the fight, well, Frank Sanchez is about to fight here pretty soon. I think it's next week. And if Frank Sanchez passes up with flying colors and Jared Anderson doesn't want to take the fight, Frank Sanchez may fight Zhelei Zhang. Frank Sanchez will take that fight. So the reality of the situation for Zhelei Zhang is more than likely Jared Anderson or Frank Sanchez. But you know how the secret society works. They don't always do the right thing. But that's, if we're talking without emotion and we're dealing with what we have explicitly in front of us, well, that's logical reasoning. For Zhelei Zhang, it'll probably be, if not AJ, Jared Anderson and Frank Sanchez. Right? And those are just the facts. Now, when we talk about Zhelei Zhang, so we can forget about Tyson, AJ, and Wilder. Zhelei Zhang and Jared Anderson. Let me tell you something. Jared Anderson sounds like he doesn't want to be around boxing too much longer anyway. Jared Anderson's with Top Rank. Bob Arum had Zhu Shiming, Chinese, I think flyweight or whatever. But anyway, Zhu Shiming had 3 medals from the Olympics, a bronze and 2 gold. Bob Arum is connected to China. And like my boy reminded me, Bob Arum was trying to set up Zhu Shiming and Pacquiao over there in China for huge money. Zhu Shiming had some eye issues. His career came to an end. Although Bob Arum does not promote Zhelei Zhang, Bob Arum would make that fight. I think he would make that fight for Jared Anderson in China for huge money. It would be a huge pay-per-view event, and I think they would do amazing numbers, and I think Jared Anderson would make gazillions of dollars. But this is my thing. Jared Anderson's already talking like he wants to retire anyway, like he wants to quit boxing a few more years, make some money. The kind of money he can make against Zhang, especially if they fight in China, and the pay-per-view numbers do what I think they can do. Let me tell you, all this man has to do, if they could set that price point at $10, $15, maybe even $20, and you get, if 300 million people are watching your fights, you get 100 million of them to buy your pay-per-view. Yo, I'm telling you, man. Zhelei Zhang and Jared Anderson will never fight again. Because he's going to lose, but the kind of money he can make, I'm telling you, he'll never fight again. So we have to wait and see how all this plays out. Some interesting stuff going on in the heavyweight division. You just don't know who's doing what or what's going on. But when you come back and you take a look at this is just being honest. This isn't my opinion here. The facts are, for the WBO, Usyk is the champion. Zhang is the interim champion. AJ's ranked number 1. Jared Anderson's ranked number 2. Okay, so the number 1 has plans. That's AJ. Jared Anderson, he should be what's next for Zhang. If not him, Frank Sanchez. If not Frank Sanchez, Andy Ruiz. Then Wilder's ranked after Andy Ruiz. So the reality of the situation is either going to be Jared Anderson, Frank Sanchez, or Andy Ruiz. But they should go down the line. That's what Zhang is supposed to be facing. But just something, on a kind of off subject, when you look at the IBF, you got Usyk as the champion, Flip Hrgovic's the mandatory. The WBC, Tyson Fury is the champion, Wilder's ranked number 1. They don't have him as a mandatory anymore. They'll probably make him fight somebody for the mandatory position of Tyson Fury. But I think if Tyson Fury gives up the belt or they strip the belt from him, it becomes vacant. Wilder will have to fight somebody for it. And that could be AJ. Or it may not be. If AJ's fighting somebody in December, it's not Wilder, and somehow the belt becomes vacant, Wilder would have to fight Arslanbek Makhmudov. And let me tell y'all right now, Makhmudov is no joke. I'm telling you, Makhmudov is no joke. And if Makhmudov doesn't want to take the fight for whatever reason, it's Frank Sanchez. So the bottom line is, you keep hearing some of these names over and over. These guys are getting into some really good positions, man, to possibly get a title shot or fight for a vacant strap. Especially, I don't think Tyson Fury's going to hold on to that WBC belt much longer. I don't. I think they may give him an opportunity after Ngannou. I don't know about letting them fight John Jones, and they may give him an opportunity after Ngannou to go after Usyk. But if not, I think they're just going to make the move. I do. And in the WBA, Usyk's the man, and this guy Manuel Char somehow picked up a WBA strap, which is just crazy to me. But Manuel Char is about to fight Gerald Miller. So Gerald Miller will beat Manuel Char. So now you got Gerald Miller, who end up as a mandatory to fight for a unified distinction against Usyk. Anyway, man, it's all crazy. But I just wanted to bring that to you and explain that. Because the reality is, Zhelei Zhang is probably going to be the cash cow of the heavyweight division if he can keep winning. And I'm going to tell y'all something else. All these fighters, there's rumors about Showtime and boxing and coming to an end on Showtime. Fighters aren't getting the kind of money they feel they deserve, right? Imagine if Showtime boxing goes away. Just imagine what happens to all those fighters who are actually over there. What happens to them? I'm telling you, it's going to be bad, man. It's going to be very, very bad. They have nowhere to go. And Zhang could be an option for a lot of those guys. He really could. But anyway, y'all keep cool, man. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. Zhelei Zhang is no joke. Y'all need to pay attention to Zhelei Zhang. I think Zhelei Zhang can actually, I think he can become undisputed at heavyweight. I do. I really think he can. He's patient, he's accurate, he sets traps, and he's just big, awkward southpaw who changes his levels, he changes speed, he has feints, he has foot movement, he has everything. But that power is no joke. That Chinese power is no joke. That being said, let's see how Top Rank plays this with Jared Anderson, and see how the WBO plays this as far as their rack stack. And let's see who Zhang gets next, because I truly believe if this is done properly, Zhang and AJ could be a big fight in China. And Eddie Hearn's all about the money. But the thing is, who's more of a risk, Zhang or Deontay Wilder for Anthony Joshua? Who's more of a risk? See, that's the question. So Eddie Hearn can't afford for AJ to lose again. And, to be honest with you, I think most people right now feel Zhang would beat Wilder and AJ. But again, Wilder's not Joyce, AJ's not Joyce. So we just have to wait and see what happens when they get in the ring. That being said, man, y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.